So let's jump right in. When you open the book of Proverbs, it starts out really personal, almost like a father giving quiet advice to his son. But then, in chapter 1, everything changes. The scene just explodes from the quiet of a home right into the noise and chaos of the city streets, and a brand new, powerful voice makes its entrance.
And this is it, from Proverbs chapter 1, verse 20. This urgent cry is what really sets the stage for the rest of the book, and it makes you wonder, right away, who is this? Who is this voice shouting in public? And what on earth are they trying to tell us?
All right, so to really get the message, you first have to picture the setting. We need to understand where this voice is making its proclamation.
Now, you've got to understand, these places weren't just random spots. The street, the markets, and especially the city gates, this was the absolute beating heart of ancient life. The city gate wasn't just an entrance. It was the public square, it was the courthouse, it was where business deals were made and all the important decisions happened. It was the center of everything.
And that right there is the whole point. Wisdom isn't whispering some secret in a dark alley or a hidden temple. No, she is out in the open, shouting truth where everyone can hear. And this tells us something fundamental. God is not silent. His truth is not hidden away. So if we are ignorant, it isn't because of a lack of revelation, it's a matter of how we choose to respond.
Okay, so we've got the where down. We're in the middle of the city. Now let's dig into the what and the who. What exactly is this message and who is it for?
You know, the original Hebrew here is just so vivid. When it says wisdom cries aloud, the word suggests a powerful, authoritative shout. We're not talking about a gentle suggestion. This is like a royal herald making a proclamation that absolutely demands your attention. You can't ignore it.
And who's on the receiving end of this shout? 3 specific groups. And notice the progression here. It's a tragic one. It starts with the simple, the naive, the easily led astray. Then it moves to the scoffers, who become cynical and openly mock the truth. And finally it ends with the fools, those who are now morally stubborn, completely hardened in their rejection. It's a heartbreaking downward spiral.
And this sets up the great, central choice in the entire book of Proverbs. Throughout your life, you're presented with 2 competing voices. You have the call of Lady Wisdom. It's public, it's truthful, it's urgent, and it leads to life. But then there's this other voice, the voice of Lady Folly. She's secretive, deceptive, seductive, and she always leads to death. Every one of us has to choose which voice we're going to listen to.
Now, this voice we're hearing in Proverbs, it's not a one-off. It's actually an echo, a theme you can hear all the way through the biblical story, and it reveals something deep about the character of God.
Later, in Proverbs chapter 8, we learn something mind-blowing. Wisdom was there with God at the creation of the world. Now just stop and think about that for a second. It means that living wisely isn't just about following a set of rules. It's about aligning ourselves with the very fabric of reality, the way God designed it to work. To live against wisdom is to try and live against the grain of the universe itself.
And what's really fascinating is that the little drama that unfolds in Proverbs 1 sets up a pattern, a kind of spiritual blueprint that we see over and over again. First, God makes a public call to his people. Second, the people refuse to listen. Third, as a consequence, judgment comes. But fourth, there's always a faithful remnant that does listen.
I mean, think about the great prophets, Isaiah, Jeremiah, Ezekiel. It's the same story, playing out again and again. That same sequence, the call, the refusal, the consequence. The voice of wisdom crying in the streets of Proverbs is the very same covenantal voice of God calling out to his people all throughout their history.
And this is where the whole story takes this absolutely breathtaking turn. For centuries, this voice of wisdom was a powerful literary figure, a personification. But then, at just the right moment in history, that voice became a person.
You see, the New Testament just pulls back the curtain completely. In Colossians chapter 2, verse 3, the Apostle Paul tells us exactly who this voice has always been pointing towards. He says that in Jesus Christ are hidden all, not some, but all the treasures of wisdom and knowledge. Jesus is the wisdom of God in the flesh.
Just think about it. How does Jesus' lifeline line up with what we read about wisdom? Well, where did he preach? In public, in the streets, the markets, the temple courts. What was his message? An urgent call for everyone to repent. He wept when people rejected his call. And what did he promise to those who listened? Unshakable security. He is a perfect living fulfillment of the pattern we see in Proverbs 1.
And you can literally hear this same ache, this same lament in Jesus' own words from Matthew chapter 23. This is the cry of wisdom, the same loving, compassionate call being offered, and the same tragic refusal. It's the voice from Proverbs, but now it's speaking with human lips, weeping over the city that he loves.
And Jesus himself tells this incredible story that brings it all home. He says that anyone who hears his words, who listens to wisdom, is like a wise person who builds their house on solid rock. When the storms of life come, and they will come, that house is going to stand firm.
But, he says, the one who hears those same words and ignores them, they're like someone who builds their house on shifting sand. And when the storm hits, that house comes crashing down. You see? This isn't just a nice little story. It is Proverbs chapter 1, told as a parable, with the same two paths and the same two destinies. And all of this, it leads us to the single most important moment in human history. It leads us to the cross, where this choice to either accept or reject wisdom was put on display for the whole world to see.
And here's the crazy, profound irony of it all. When the actual wisdom of God who spoke the universe into being walked among us, what did humanity do? Exactly what Proverbs predicted the scoffers and fools would do. They mocked him. They rejected him. They judged him to be a fool who deserved to die. To the world, the cross looked like the ultimate failure, absolute foolishness. But as Paul tells us in 1 Corinthians, the very thing the world calls foolishness is actually the greatest display of God's power and wisdom. The resurrection proved it. The cross wasn't the end of a fool. It was the triumph of the wisdom of God.
And that brings us all the way back to where we started, to that original promise from Proverbs chapter 1, verse 33. That ancient promise of security and peace for anyone who listens to wisdom. It finds its final, perfect fulfillment, not in an idea, but in a person. The security promised in Proverbs is the eternal security we find in Jesus Christ.
You know that ancient cry from the streets of Jerusalem? It's still echoing today through the person and the work of Jesus Christ. He is wisdom, still standing in the public squares of our world, still calling out. So the question for every one of us is the same today as it was back then. Which voice will you answer?